Thought I'd share my latest pickup. Got this on eBay. You can see it's a Telematic, and this is a test picture tube to hook up to chassis when you just want to. You're working on a chassis and it's a larger screen set. You can hook this small tube up just for testing purposes. So I'm going to open it up and we'll see what we got inside. I'll be testing the tube to see if it's okay, and I'll show you the accessories that came with it. And here's the original manual. Tells you how to use it. Here's the tube, and I'm gonna set it right there. We're gonna check it in a few minutes. There's the adapter for the picture tube. And of course this plugs onto to the tube like that. And then this plugs into the CRT socket on your TV chassis. There's a warning on the picture tube to be careful while handling it. Here's the yoke. And it does have a couple of inline fuses for protection. And there's the 4 plugs. Here's the anode extension lead. You see that plugs on the tube, and then the other end just clips onto your anode on the chassis. There's your user's registration there, the serial number on it. And one more thing, he's got a note in here. It says, happened to run into a problem yesterday. Some of the new picture tubes have higher bias requirement than the older types. When a test tube is installed, the brightness control will not reduce the bias sufficiently to light the tube. In this case, a 100,000 ohm resistor added from cathode to ground allowed the use of the tube. Picture tube in question was a 21 DSP4. So that's a little note that he put on it. Pretty neat. So I'm going to get the CRT tester out, and we'll check the tube to see if it's okay. One thing about this tube, the front has the grids built onto the front of the case. That's for alignment. So that's pretty good shape. And looking through this manual, got some pretty neat information in here. Apparently they even sold CRT boosters. There's an ad for those. That explains how it works. Substitution tester for CRT or Yokes and CRTs. Troubleshooting the Yoke and CRT. Antenna switchers. This company was into a lot of different things. And then here's some more accessories you could obtain. Got all types of things listed there. Extension leads that you can hook up. There's a color service extensions that you can purchase if you're working on a color set. And mini test pocket voltmeter. Eliminate adjacent channel interference. Adjustable knockouts to local field conditions. And then more filters, wave traps, coax transformers, rear seat speaker, variable control, TV hush, where you can put a speaker over by your chair and you don't disturb your spouse when they're trying to sleep. There's a lot of old neat stuff in that book there. So let's check this tube and see if it's any good. Alright, the CR70 is on. And we got filaments you can see right there. So we'll run the filament voltage up to 6.3. No heater cathode shorts or G1 shorts. And we'll set our cutoff. Wonder how many years it's been since this tube was even hooked up. But we got a good tube. Life test, no change. So the tube is good. And here's a Telematic hooked up to this 21-inch Traveler TV chassis. And it's just a matter of clipping the 4 yoke wires in right here. CRT extension cable plugs in, and the anode lead, which clips in right there. Now, sure, it's pulled in side to side, but the point of this is just to see if the set is working with some deflection and horizontal and vertical deflection. And it does tell you that. You still need to hook it up to the tube that's made for the set, of course, because there's no way they could take one yoke that comes with the Telematic. No way you can make it work on hundreds of different chassis. Very good for testing. You could, if you're working on this chassis, beginning to work on it, you could just leave that picture tube, that old big 21-inch tube, or get it out of the way where you wouldn't have to wrestle it around. And you can use this to troubleshoot and get the set working, and then hook up the tube that goes in the set. So I'm happy with my purchase. The tube still looks good. Plenty of brightness, as you can see there. And it's auto focusing, so just like the tube that's in the set is. So looks good, works good. Once you get these leads clipped in, then it's not really that big a deal to leave this hooked up while you're working on a chassis. And once you get everything unhooked, put the yoke cables there, the CRT cable there, anode cable there. Yoke's back in its place. It's got a cradle that holds it, that plastic piece. When you're finished, you close the lid, and you're ready to go on your next service call. I'm sure a lot of times the technicians back in the day probably took this with them in the truck and done some troubleshooting in the home. It would actually check a picture tube. It's one way of checking it. Or you could check a yoke to see if it was bad in the set. So I guess it had its purpose there too. Most of the time it was used in the shop on the bench, but I'm sure some technicians had one in the truck too. That's how the Telematic test tube works. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Take care. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, and we'd love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Thanks.